All right, what's up, guys? Hammer here again. Back. I know I haven't. You guys may have been caught off guard by today's live stream because, as you guys already know, it's been a really long time since I've actually gone live during the day because due to my hectic schedule and what I got to deal with. Um, a lot of times when I will go live, I think we'll do it during the night, and of course, with your times are a little different, but I do it because that's really the only time I have while I upload a video. But I did find some time in my schedule today to kind of dive into this, and I don't know. We'll see. My hope is for at least 1 hour. That's kind of what I'm looking for. If we do have some time, maybe I can open the panel on the end. We'll see who comes through. But that's my hope for today. But as you guys can see by the title, this is going to be a very in-depth geopolitical analysis. So we're going to be touching a lot of stuff today. I'm going to try to squeeze as much about as we can during our 1 hour. We'll see how things go. But as I go through this, y'all can ask me a question in the chat, or if I'm going a little too fast, or if you guys want some more explanation on certain topics, certain concepts, we can do that. But I'm just going to go ahead and dive into. I'm going to start my monologue really quickly. Okay. A cool bounce in the future. Let me see what she says here. Yeah, it says. But let me just start. Okay, so I'm just going to start really quickly. So right now, for many guys, right, there is a war that's going on in Ukraine, and I feel like a lot of people don't understand the geopolitical context in which all this is happening under, right? So let me go ahead and say this, because the premise of this video, of this live stream, is that the Ukraine war essentially symbolizes the end of the West. And I feel like, for those who may be unfamiliar, who may not know what's going on geopolitically, that may be simple stress. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to begin. I'm going to go as far as possible. I'm going to make my way to current day 2024, current time 2024, and we're going to break it down. So let's go all the way back to after World War II, right? The United States, essentially, after World War II, became the unipolar hegemonic power. Well, first you had the Cold War, right? And they were battling with the Soviets. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that during this time period, there was an understanding that after the collapse of the Soviet Union, that NATO would not expand eastward. So do you understand, right? I think even Putin talked about it during his interview with Tucker Carlson. And the reason was because, once again, right, Russia's biggest fear was being encircled. And so after the Soviet Union collapsed, their fear was that, okay, we'll get encircled. So one thing that was agreed upon, or there was understanding, based on being said, is that, after we break away from the Soviet states and we kind of let them be own independent countries, you'll promise that NATO will stay in the West. Now, guys, look, this may seem like a long history lesson, but in order to understand the context, we really do have to go back all the way to after World War II. I would say even around the end of the Cold War till now for the context, right? But let me continue. They essentially told the Russians, essentially said, "Hey, look, you need to promise us, the Russians, that essentially, you're not going to expand NATO towards our borders, right?" So you understand? Now, as time goes on, right, the Western nations, especially the United States, right, instead of them trying to sort of bring Russia into the fold, they see the collapse of the Soviet Union, the collapse of communism, the collapse of sort of the Soviet bloc as a way to just essentially do whatever the fuck they want. They try the best they can to undermine Russia economically. They are able to kind of get the Chinese into the fold, and the point of China was to really use them as an industrial belly to fuel cheap products for America and Europe, or particularly for America. So they just abuse Russia any kind of way. Well, yeah, we may have agreed. We may have had an understanding that we were not going to encircle you, but fuck that, right? We may have had an understanding that, we were going to bring you into the Western fold, but fuck all that. We're going to go and just undermine you anyway, right? What's the whole thing? Now, when it comes to the Chinese, right? China had made a strategic plan in which they chose to kind of temporarily, I say temporarily, right, align with the United States, because they realized, okay, look, the Soviets were able to help us build our military arm. We were able to get stronger militarily, become more industrialized. and even have nuclear weapons. But if we want to move forward, if we want to have any sort of economic prowess, we're gonna need to truly industrialize and to really grow economically, and really only the West can do that. And with a Soviet collapse, well, we have no other choice. So China essentially chose to open up to the United States. And I think really after Nixon, we sort of see how America took opportunity, because both of was happening, right? Because on one hand, the Chinese felt like it was going to be better for them in the long term to align with the West because they need the economic prowess, and America saw an opportunity, so they both aligned, and rest history. But as China slowly kind of benefited from that industrial and became more kind of powerful, the Soviets weakened until they collapsed, right? And as the Western world was ravaging Russia economically after the Soviet collapse, the Chinese actually, instead of allowing Russia to be ravaged, they chose to go in there and kind of help the Russians, right? Hey, come here, join our clique, join our group, right? And I think that when you understand that it was the Chinese that essentially came in there and essentially rescued the Russians economically as they were being ravaged by the West, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, then you understand how this ties back to what we're dealing with today, right? So as time goes on, the Western powers are going in there, they're building up China, all in the hopes of that, if we build up China economically, then one day China will essentially be able to become a liberal democracy just like us, and this will be the end of history, right? Like Fukushima, I think it was Fukushima, but there was this author who was saying about, he said the end of history, right? The end of history. And I keep forgetting his name. I think the author's name is Fukushima. I keep forgetting. But nevertheless, he was essentially saying his book, The End of History, that, everyone in the world is going to become a liberal democracy, and that's going to be it, right? That's going to be everything, right? And this was ironically the sort of thinking that actually got the West so invested in China, right? They believe that, hey, the only other country out there outside the Russians who can really mess with us in any kind of way will be a threat is the Chinese. So if we invest long enough, then maybe we can kind of turn the Chinese into sort of, this liberal democratic state. But little did they know that, well, China was playing you, because China understood that economic prowess, the industrial prowess that they needed to move forward. And so they realized that they had to play ball. But as they were doing that, they were also helping the Russians, get back on their feet after the West ravaged the Russians after the collapse of the Soviet Union, right? So that's how it happened, right? Now keep this in mind, and I do see off air and see, since the end of the West, we screwed my brother. For those who may not know, off air and see is a white dude, so I hope you understand that. Yeah, the West is. I'm gonna break it down really quickly, but I'm giving a quick history lesson to kind of give you guys context here, right? But nevertheless, after this, people need to understand this, right? Right, look. When you look, for example, at how economies work, right? We live under global capitalism. Capitalism is fueled by because I think people understand that it wasn't just about them trying to sort of, bring China into the fold, trying to sort of, have China to be a bulwark, or trying to turn China into a liberal democracy through industrialization. The fundamentals of capitalism are also at play here. See, capitalism is economics in which profits get prioritized over everything else, right? And when you look at the West, right, which has been capitalism, right, one of the major flaws of capitalism is that it needs endless growth. But here's the issue. We live on a planet with finite resources. So endless growth essentially is impossible in many ways, right? So what does that mean? If you have a country, the United States or England or UK or the Western world, right? Once they industrialize and they complete the industrial cycle, they will eventually reach what I call the limit of growth, right? Their country only has a finite number of resources and a finite number of people. So they're going to reach a limit they can grow. Under capitalism, once you reach that limit, you sort of decline. The only way to keep growing and not decline is that you have to expand to new economic landscapes to keep that endless growth. So part of the Western world expands towards China Yes, it was also about kind of getting the Chinese on the side. It was also about trying to get, China into a liberal democracy. But part of it was that many of these countries in the West, especially America, had reached the limits of growth. And the only way for them to grow even further economically under capitalism, they were going to have to expand to newer markets, expand to newer economic landscapes in order to fuel the growth further. And China, being a country that was close to 1 billion, was just the perfect territory at the right place. Right? The perfect they were at the right place at the right time. Right? So China is able to cash in the demographic dividend, and of course they're able to industrialize at rapid speed while also helping their buddy Russia get off their feet. Now, fast forward to the 2000s, right? There is of course there is concern, especially in the Western world, that hey, China is going too fast. Yes, we expanded China for to kind of bring them into the Western fold, to to grow, to increase our growth, to use them as a process, but how do we make sure that this growth we are seeing from China doesn't undermine us? Now, guys, for those who may not know, many of the wars that happened in the Middle East, part of it was to maintain control of the Middle East, but a lot of it was to also check the Chinese. See, what you need to understand here is this: China, which has become, what is now becoming has now become the biggest industrial base in the world. To have a large industrial base, you need energy, specifically oil, right? And so part of those wars in the Middle East was not just to kind of help out Israel and maintain the control of the Middle East, but it was also to control the amount of oil and energy so that will go towards the Chinese, right? And ironically, China caught wind of this, and one way they were kind of able to circumvent this was to bring out the Belt and Road Initiative, right? An entire massive infrastructure push to ensure that hey, if there's any sort of disruptions in the supply chains or the energy trade, we'll still be able to be economically strong. Now, here's what people need to understand: this is happening. China is building the Belt and Road Initiative, right? They're also going and kind of building up with the BRICS, right? And some of the BRICS. Bringing in the Russians, bringing in India, bringing in Brazil, bringing in South Africa later on, right? The Belt and Road Initiative, the BRICS, the Shanghai Cooperative Organization, right? All of these things are mechanisms in which China is saying, hey, we are essentially next, we're taking over, right? And people need to understand this, okay? This was inevitable, right? If you understand, like before, if you understand how capitalism works, right? It was inevitable that the moment in which they plugged in the Chinese, the center of power was going to move from the west towards the east, right? Often RC says, open the panel. Don't worry, brother. I open the panel. I have to finish my monologue. I'm almost done. It's a deep monologue, right? They should have known the moment in which they plugged in the Chinese. That essentially meant that the center of economic prowess was going to move from the west towards the east. And the answer is very simple, right? That's how capitalism works, right? When you're talking about being an economic giant, right? Under capitalism, you need the demographics, you need the industrial base, right? You need the resources, right? And you also need a strong financial system, right? All of which the United States and the West has, right? The U.S. and the West had good demographics. They had strong industrial base. They had resources they could extract from the rest of the world, and they had a strong financial system, right? China has the industrial base. Oh, and also, most importantly, you also need to have the military prowess, right? Specifically, a strong navy, right, to control trade. So China has now the industrial base. China has demographics. China has the military prowess in terms of now they have the biggest navy in the globe. China is not able to get the resources to Russia and the global south. The only thing China is missing right now to really take over is the quote unquote financial institutions, right? They don't yet have the major financial prowess that the Western world, especially America has. But of course, with the de-dollarization that's happening, they'll get there eventually, right? So what's the point here? The point here is this: the moment in which you essentially, in many ways, plugged in the Chinese, they already had all of the ingredients ready to take over. All they really, because the way capitalism and industrial world is that somebody has to put you on, right? An industrialized nation has to essentially bring you in. They have to give you the tools to industrialize, right? Once that happens, once you get the other resources, the things that you need, you'll surpass them. So China already had the demographics. Once you give the industries, the industrial, right, the infrastructure, they were able to industrialize. They had the population. They had the resources. They later on became, a major economic prowess that are going to become number one really soon. And now, with them having the military prowess, the only thing they need now is with the financial system, right, which we're going to get soon. So how does this tie into Ukraine? And I guess now I'm getting to the Ukraine thing, right? Before the war in Ukraine, right, Donald Trump was in power. And Trump essentially realized that, hey, China's coming through. We have the BRICS coming through. The West losing, right? And if we want to maintain any kind of stronghold, we're going to have to pivot towards the Chinese. And that means we're going to have to let go of Europe. I guess off air and see what jump on and talk about, but we're going to have to let go of Europe. Now, Europeans were, of course, very angry about this, right? Because, oh my God, we need America here, but Donald Trump understood, look, we can't keep carrying NATO and Western Europe. It's not back, right? We're literally being surrounded by China and their bloc. We have to focus on that issue. We have to focus on the Pacific, on the Asian continent, because they're the future right now. Then, of course, Africa, right? So, Trump was going that path. Now, Trump gets out of office, right? Now, keep in mind that before Trump left office, the only reason why Trump, in my opinion, really went as China the way he did is because of the COVID-19 outbreak. But nevertheless, his point was very clear, right? We need to pivot towards Europe and towards Asia. Biden comes to office. Now, the mainstream media won't tell you this, okay? Biden and the U.S. government are the ones who, in many ways, triggered the Ukraine war. And I guess off air and C already knows that, right? Because, and here was the plan. Biden comes to office. He sees that Europe is drifting slowly away from the United States. Biden also sees that, oh my God, China is catching up. So Biden and the White House do what I call a Hail Mary pass. Okay, we understand that within the BRICS organization, Russia is the military arm, is the muscle of the BRICS. So if we take out the Russians, then we can more easily go at the brains, the economic prowess, which is China. So what's the plan? Joe Biden was vice president when you had the situation in Crimea, right? Because look, there was a coup in Ukraine, right? That was staged by the West. They put in place a pro-Western puppet. Russia knew what's going on, so they want to seize Crimea because the goal of them, staging a coup in Ukraine was essentially, hey, we'll stay a coup in Ukraine and we essentially cut the Russians off from the Black Sea. Russia said no. Putin said no. I see what you're doing. We're going to go and seize Crimea. Okay? So that was the end of that. But nevertheless, they were still able to flip Ukraine. So when Joe Biden comes to office, he knows that when it comes to Vladimir Putin, Ukraine is the red line, particularly because of its geography. So what does he do? He starts raising the specter about Ukraine joining NATO. Conversations about sending weapons to Ukraine starts being sent. I believe that the plan of Biden was that he was going to use Ukraine to trigger a response from Russia and then use that response from Russia to scare the Europeans into the American army. Because let's be honest here, when Biden came into office, Europeans were going their own way because Macron and Angela Merkel were talking about strategic European autonomy. So they were tired of America. Let's look. After what happened with Donald Trump, we don't want to happen again. So his goal was to use Ukraine to provoke the Russians and use the Russian reaction to scare the Europeans, right? And I believe that when Russia came in, surrounded Ukraine with the troops, it was working. What I believe went wrong is that Biden, he did not think that Putin would call his bluff. He didn't think that Vladimir Putin would actually go into the country. And so when Vladimir Putin went into the country, like, oh my God, they called our bluff. But even though Russia went further than what they expected, they said, hey, we can still use this as a pretext to essentially sanction the hell out of Russia, undermine them economically, destroy Russia, and then go to China. So here was the original plan. We used Ukraine to trigger a response from the Russians, and then when the Russians have a response, it will scare the Europeans to our arm. Now, if the Russians, go beyond what we expect, we'll just use their response as an excuse to sanction the hell out of them, destroying Russia economically, cause them to collapse, and then once Russia goes down, we can go at China because we know that Russia is the military arm of the BRICS. Now, what they did not expect was that Russia will actually come in there military prepared. Now here's the thing, guys. Look, after the invasion of 2014, Vladimir Putin knew that at some point the West was going to call his bluff. That at some point Russia would be in a major war with the West, right? So when the situation in Ukraine happened, they were shocked because Vladimir Putin and the Russians were prepared. And they were ready for that fight. The sanctions, ironically, blew back on the West. Now, here's the thing. The premise of this video is that, due to capitalism and due to the war in Ukraine, we're essentially seeing in the West, right? Just based on how capitalism works, right? It was inevitable that once you plugged in China, the center of the global economy moving towards the West, towards the East, was inevitable. And also, this Hail Mary that America pulled in Ukraine, ironically, in my opinion, was the last nail in the coffin. Because here's what happened. Not only did the sanctions on Russia backfire on the West, but the fact that you guys seized Russia's assets caused nations all across the globe to push for de-dollarization. Okay? Because people need to understand that when it comes to America's strong, like one of the main pillars of America's power is the U.S. dollar, and the U.S. dollar being the war reserve currency, which allows America to essentially pay its own debt in its own currency, sanction countries all across the world, and also all trade, essentially most trade is done within their currency. Okay? I would say that the pillars that allow America to be the dominant power in the globe right now is one, its financial system, two, the U.S. dollar, three, its industrial base, four, its military, and five, its economy. Right? So when it comes to the economy, China is going to surpass them soon. When it comes to the military prowess, China already has the biggest navy in the world, and they're catching up. When it comes to the industrial base, China is already number one. When it comes to the financial system, right, China is catching up with the BRICS and the de-dollarization movement. And when it comes to the economy, of course, China has the biggest economic prowess in the globe. The only thing that I believe that China is missing is the financial system. That's it. So, not only was the center of the global economy moving from the West towards the East already, even before the Ukraine war, this Hail Mary that Joe Biden pulled with Ukraine backfired. Because not only did all the sanctions, backfire on the West, not only did this trigger countries around the world to dollarize, but it also pushed countries to join the BRICS. Saudi Arabia joined the BRICS. The UAE joined the BRICS. Okay? Iran joined the BRICS. Those are major powers. Saudi Arabia is already talking with China and Russia about getting rid of the petrodollar. So all across, you are seeing the pillars of Western power are being knocked down left and right. And to make it even worse, right, Europeans, in my opinion, were fucked over the hardest. Because, look, Europeans, their ability to maintain their power was on two things. One, they were able to get cheap energy from Russia, cheap economic goods from China, and, of course, military security from the United States. because America dragged them into this conflict with the Russians, with Ukraine, they put sanctions on Russia. These sanctions backfire. You know why? One, they lost the cheap energy from the Russians. Two, the products from the Chinese essentially has gone away for the most part. And the United States is now forcing them to take in to buy energy from America at higher prices. So you lost your cheap energy, you lost your cheap goods, and the United States is forcing you to import energy from America at a higher price. All of this is causing Europe to deindustrialize. And not only are you deindustrializing, now you have Donald Trump talking about, when I get into office, we're not going to defend Europe. So Europeans are fucked because they cut the energy from Russia. They've cut their economic ties from China. They're being charged exorbitant prices by the United States, which is causing them to deindustrialize. And now there's a real fear that America may actually abandon them, if not Ukraine. Especially because in the fact that all this Ukraine aid is being held up within the U.S. Congress. And to make it even worse, you have the war right now in Israel, in Gaza, which is potentially inflaming the entire Middle East. You have the Houthis firing rockets at the Red Sea. All of this is economically weakening the West and causing the West to deindustrialize, particularly Europe. So what people need to understand is that this gamble that the Western world pulled with Ukraine, right, has backfired. Not only in terms of deindustrialization, not only in terms of the expansion of the BRICS, not only in terms of what you're seeing with the Middle East and countries, the Houthis firing rockets at Yemen, potentially Saudi Arabia and them flipping away from the West, right? The Middle East being inflamed. Not just that, the rest of the world moving away from the West. It's a wrap. And what I will say is that the only thing that has really kept Ukraine in the forefront, Ukraine standing, was Western support. And now we're starting to see that as Western economic prowess is going down, it's over. Now, I'm almost done with my monologue. I'm going to open the panel. I have about 30 minutes. So I'll finish my monologue real quick and I'll open the panel before someone hop on and give the thoughts. But here's the final of the monologue, right? What you are seeing right now is that the United States essentially is slowly the United States is in decline. America's military and economic prowess is in decline. Okay? Militarily, Russia and China already match America. Economically, China is on the verge of surpassing America. And with the BRICS and the rest of the non-Western world aligning with China, it's almost inevitable that they're going to surpass the United States eventually, right? Eventually, right? Then on top of that, when you look overall at the center of power is essentially moving away from America towards China and the rest of the world. So that's what America is dealing with. And this Ukraine war has only made it worse. It has only accelerated America's imperial decline. Now, when it comes to Europe, Europe has lost cheap energy from Russia. Europe has lost its cheap economic access to China. Europe is now being charged exorbitant prices of energy from the United States. Europe is now potentially facing America abandoning them. Europe is dealing with a demographic collapse, both in Europe and, of course, in America. What they are facing right now is complete decline and complete irrelevance on the global stage. And you add deindustrialization on top of that, it's even worse. So what we're essentially seeing, ladies and gentlemen, is that we are seeing that right now, what we are seeing is that right now, the center of the global economy, the center of power is moving from the West towards the East, right? This century is going to be the Asian century. This century is going to be the Asian century, in which the center of the global economy is going to move from the west towards the east. But the next century, which is 22,000, I guess, yeah, 2200. Anyway, the next century, which is 2200, is going to be the African century, in which the center of the global economy is going to move from, of course, the east towards the south, towards Africa. So let me say it again. This century, the 21st century, is going to be the Asian century, in which the center of the global economy is going to move from the west towards Asia, right? And Asia is going to be the dominant economic prowess on the global stage. I mean, let's be honest here. The majority of the population is already in Asia. Then by the next century, 2200, the center of the global economy is going to move from Asia towards Africa. Why? Because if you look at the demographics today, what is the only continent that is growing demographically? Somebody say in the chat. Because if you look back, around, after World War II, Asia was the one that was growing, right? Asia became the most populated continent, the biggest demographic on the globe. And I've talked to you about how capitalism works. Capitalism is about endless growth. It always moves towards, bigger markets, bigger consumers. So once Asia became the largest demographics in the world, right, it became inevitable that eventually the center of the global economy, the center of power will move towards Asia, because that's where the people are. That's where the demographics are. Because with the demographics, you can have greater growth, you can have greater consumerism, you can have greater manpower to industrialize and build industry and build military prowess. And now when we are looking at the global stage, the only continent that's growing demographically is sub-Saharan Africa, meaning Black Africa is the only continent that's growing demographic right now. And they will make up the majority of the globe by the next century. And just like how we saw the center of the global economy and the center of power move from the west towards Asia, by the next century, we're going to see the center of the global economy and the center of power move from Asia towards Africa. That's why this whole FBA 8 shit kills me. It's crazy to me how Black Americans are cutting themselves off from the African continent, where Africa is literally going to be the last frontier of industrialization. Black Africa is literally the future of the global economy. But it is what it is. But the Black Americans who have high IQ, they understand. That's what I say. Look, in the long term, the Pan-Africans are going to win. The future belongs to the Pan-Africanists. It's not the ADOS FBAs. Because they understand what the future is. They understand that the next century is going to be the African century. But don't get it twisted. This century is the Asian century. And what we are going to see is that by the middle of the century, China is going to lead the globe economically, and Asia is going to become the dominant economic prowess on the global stage. And by the way, guys, this is also the reason why China is so invested in Africa, because the Chinese know. They know that Africa is next to the line. That's why they're getting ahead of everybody else. But anyway, I think that should be on my law, right? But I guess I'll say one last thing. So, just to make sure y'all understand what's happening, we are witnessing the end of the West. There is no turning back. There is no, turn back the ship. That's why I keep saying, y'all, white supremacy is over. And wait a minute, off Aaron C, are you still there? Because off Aaron C is off Aaron C is a white supremacist, so he's a cool guy. So there, because I love highlighting on the panel. That's the reason why I keep saying white supremacy is over. I'm gonna keep saying that like it's just be just why he's like it's over. Because white supremacy really, in many ways, is Western dominance over the globe. That's over with. Once the center of power, once the center of the global economy moves from the West towards the rest of the globe, that's it. Like, that's the end of white supremacy, right? Like, if white people are no longer the center of power, if they're no longer the center of the global economy, there is no white supremacy anymore. Let's keep it real. So the end of the West is the end of white supremacy. And what we're going to see is that, as before, the center of the global economy, the center of the global economy, and the center of power is going to move towards Asia, right? I would say by the middle of the century, right? So this century belongs to the Asians, and this century, they will become the center of the global economy and center of power. And then by the next century, the center of the global economy and the center of power will move from Asia towards Africa. That's the reason why the whole FBA thing is explaining to me. You're cutting yourself off from your motherland just as the motherland is next in line for power. It's crazy to me. But the Black Americans who know, look, they understand, they know what the diaspora, those who want to be FBAs and ADOS, it is what, that's up to them. It is what it is. But I guess that should be about it. This century is the Asian century. The next century, so 21st century is the Asian century, 22nd century is the African century, and this, we are now seeing the end of the West and the end of white supremacy. So that should be the end of my monologue. I'm going to play this video, and then I'm going to open the panel for discussion.
We're going to turn now to Ukraine,
And just to let you guys know, this is just a video about the fact that, Ukraine's losing. But let's go.
We're going to turn now to Ukraine. Another major challenge in these United States is happening overseas. Russians invading armies claiming still more territory as Ukraine's army waits for more aid from America. Charlie D'Agata visited 2 towns in eastern Ukraine that are under serious threat right now. They are close to the front lines and under constant shelling from Russian forces.
After the punishing battles that pummeled nearby Bakhmut and then Avdiivka, cities that stood as symbols of Ukrainian resistance and ultimately fell to Russian firepower, they've now turned their sights and guns on Chasiv Yar. The explosions were non-stop as we arrived to find a town ravaged by artillery fire and troops asking for help. You can see the destruction everywhere, and the writing is literally on the wall. And the message couldn't be clearer. We are not asking too much. We just need artillery shells, and aviation will do the rest ourselves. And yes, it is in English because they know exactly where they want this message to land. Ruben Sarukanian is a soldier with the 5th Assault Brigade. He said, "We're counting on our American partners to help us with weapons so that our guys do not have to sacrifice their lives." But Russia's lethal reach extends beyond the battlefield, as residents in the nearby village of Kostiantynivka learned. As Russian troops advance, towns like this are in the firing line, and no targets are off limits. This historic train station is still smoldering from a missile strike a few nights ago, when multiple missiles turned the train station into an inferno, destroying nearby homes with it. It was a direct hit, clearly aimed at crippling Ukraine's civilian infrastructure. This concentrated stretch of the front line has seen some of the worst attacks of the war. 2 years of blistering offensives and counteroffensives. But the Russians have the upper hand here now. More weapons, more manpower, and more willingness to expend both. President Zelensky is in Albania to co-host a summit to drum up more regional support, but all eyes remain on that $60 billion Ukraine package stalled in Congress. Without American support, he says Ukraine will lose. Yeah.
Yep, and they'll lose it. All right, so my monologue is complete. Off air and see. I don't know if you're still there, but we'll see. You can join if you want to. My monologue is complete. So I think I've done my complete breakdown. For those who are just coming in, I did a 40-minute monologue kind of breaking down my premise in regards to why I believe the West, the end of the West is here. And y'all can see that. But I guess now I'm going to go ahead and open the panel. So that's the link if you guys want to join and hop on and have the discussions. It is what it is. You can hop and we can talk and we can have a conversation. I think often see what to respond to often. Yeah, you kind of are a white supremacist. I've come across you before, but it is what it is. It is what it is. But that's the link if you don't want to join and hop on. We can have the conversation here on the live. But As you guys go link to join and you know hop on the panel, let me go ahead and say this really quickly, okay? You know, whenever I go on Twitter or whenever I sort of hop on any of these sort of right wing channels or right wing blogs, something I do see is that a lot of white folks, you know, they talk about migrants coming through America. Okay, he just came through. All right, off air and see how you doing, man. Your mic is muted. Hello, off air and see. Let me see. Okay, he's something. Yeah, you can jump back on. Your mic was muted. So yeah, so hop back on and we can have the conversation. Look, I think he's back now. Okay,
Hey, what's up?
all right, your mic is better now. Okay, that's great. You know, I'm happy that a white guy hop on the panel so we can have the conversation.
Yeah. But there's no reason to not keep it civil. It's not, you know.
yeah, we can have
we're both nationalists. We both have the same view and want the same thing. All our goals are aligned. We just happen to have a different color of skin. I mean, it's really just not that serious. A lot of these people in this space, they think it's like on site when we see each other or something like that. It's just not that serious. It's really not that serious. I still have plenty of black friends, man. It's not that serious. Fuck.
Okay, well, whatever you say, brother. Whatever you say. So just to kind of start off, you know, I did do a very in-depth monologue. Did you hear it? I see you heard it, the whole thing.
No, I was busy. I just saw the generalized,
okay, that's fine.
Fall
so I guess, what are your thoughts on everything that was said?
Well, I don't know. I mean, just as far as the title, the fall of the West. I mean, you know, FBAs and other blacks here. I mean, don't you guys kind of see it as a negative thing? Because when this ship goes down, you guys are going down with us, right?
Well, first of all, I'm not an FBO black, and I'm not a black immigrant. I've said it before, but I'll say it again, right? But here's the thing. Look, you're right that I guess folks who are living in the West per se, but here's what I would challenge you on that point, right? It would only matter if they were, I guess, benefiting equally from the system. Like, you can at least agree with me that when it comes to the West, the people who benefit the most in the West are white.
I don't see that at all. I think everybody benefits. That's why the whole world dies to come here in the
first
place.
Yeah. Really? So let me ask you a question. You want me to believe, you really saying that in the United States, a black American man, has more privileges than a white dude?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, they can call me whatever they want. They won't get in trouble. If I say the N-word, they can justify a homicide on it, right?
So tell me the examples in which Western civilization in the West, in America, puts black Americans over the white majority.
Sorry about that. It's not just blacks. It's all ethnic groups. You see the Mexicans coming across the border by the thousands. On daily, right? Why would they do that? They would do all that to come somewhere
on this panel because I literally made a video about folks like you and I, about how there's a lot of white folks who are delusional about what's happening. But I'll break it out for you. All the points. Number one, the real reason why migrants are coming from South America towards the United States is really for two reasons. One, you have a perfect intersection between states' interests and business interests, right? You do realize that in the United States, you have very low birth rates, right? Specifically among the whites.
Yeah.
Right? Now, think about it from the point of view of the white people who manage your business class and your state, right? Okay, we need a robust population because one, from the business point of view, right? We need a strong consumer base, right? And we need to have cheap labor. Now, from the point of view of the state, they need a strong population because why? They need a strong tax base and they need people to have a strong workforce, right? And also able to work in the bureaucracy and be in the military. Since white people can't produce them anymore, they're bringing them here.
Those of us that are like originally from this country, we don't really want that though. We don't really approve of that.
It doesn't matter. Look, now I just broke down to you.
No, our elites are doing it. You're right about that.
Business class and your state elites are doing it. You understand why, right? I broke it down to you, right? You see it, right?
I mean, you just described what the elite motivation. The average
Yes.
citizen does not, I don't benefit from having all Mexican or black neighbors. I mean, that's
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Probably as an individual white person, you don't. You probably don't. Yeah, you're gonna be washed out. But here's the thing, though. You still are part of the system, right? And this is what kills them about white dudes, right? Is that you guys want to put white folks in all positions of power, which is fine. I get that, but then want to complain when they put decisions that I guess you don't, help you. Look, from the point of view of the white people who manage your business class and your political system, they need to do this for the survival of the state and for the society. And they're willing to sacrifice whiteness to do so. See, it's only the average white person who holds on to whiteness hard. Don't get it twisted. Off RNC, they will throw that over the bus if they need to.
The elites, yeah, we are not on the same side. Yeah, right.
But for some reason, I don't understand why white people, for some reason, look, obviously, you're a white person. You understand that when it comes to Europe, right? The default system in Europe was feudalism.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
Yeah, they became decent monarchies there towards the end, but sure.
Yeah, but you know how white folks were in Europe. Like they were not unifying based on whiteness. There was an entire class of serfs.
We're still not really unified on why. I mean, most white people just don't really care. Most people have friends of all races. They just don't care as much as you might think they do.
You know what? You're right. Look,
you blacks just wake up thinking that white people are just plotting on black. I mean, that you guys are everything. And that's just so retarded. I live in a state where there is no blacks. I mean, there's no black people for me to even dislike or have animus towards. So it's really just not as serious as you make it. But I do. But why? How? I do want to hear more about your point as far as like people don't benefit coming here. Why are people coming across the border if they don't benefit as much from the system as white people? That's retarded, man. That's not true.
The reason they're coming is very simple. The Western powers, especially the United States, you do realize about the Monroe Doctrine, right?
Yeah.
About how America is about trying to control. They view South America as a backyard event, essentially. Now, I'm sure as somebody, I'm assuming that you've been in the military and Navy. Is that correct?
How the hell did you guess that?
I'm just guessing. To be honest with you, just guessing. Is that true?
Wow, this dude just guessed that I was. Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Yeah.
Really? Okay, so is
that some of that FBA Majora energy?
I told you, bro. I'm not FBA or ADOS. I'm a black immigrant from West Africa. I'm not even associated with that.
But you're still on some black power shit, my brother.
Well, let me ask you a question. If I, as a black man from Cameroon, walked into a white place, are you going to view me as white?
No, but you're not going to get mistreated because you're black. You're going to get the same benefits that I get, and then some. You're going to get more.
All the white people in that room are not going to view me as a black West African, right? Come on, let's not do that. You know the truth.
Sure, they'll view as a black bird. What is that?
Yeah, come on. Let's have an honest conversation as black man to white man. Like we know.
But what that mean? What that mean? So if you go
somewhere, you know what? I ask this question: if I walk into a room with a blonde-haired white female, would they view me as a white dude?
No, you'd be a colored man who's swirling.
A black man who's swirling. Not a colored man, black. Come on, bro. You know how when it comes to white guys, all they gotta see is a black dude and a white lose their mind. But it is what it is. Look.
What do you mean we lose our mind? How many times do you think I swirled? The longest relationship I was ever in was with a fucking dime piece mix bitch. It just ain't that serious, cuz.
But come on, bro. As a white dude, you do recognize the mentality. There's a lot. Come on.
What mentality? What mentality are you talking about? We talking about?
Most white men have no problem. Now, first of all, I don't even believe in black men dating out, but let's be honest here. Most white men have no problem dating outside the race, right? For the most part.
Most white men?
Most white men, yes. I think
we probably prefer to procreate with our own kind, but yeah, we'll have a kid with a senior.
Well, what I mean by it is like they don't care as much, right? especially if they see a fine Asian female, especially the Orientals. They love the Orientals for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't get the Asian. Yeah, I don't get it. But
Now you're the anomaly, but most white dudes, that's what they're on. But
I'm pure snow. I'm pure snow bunny.
Yeah, for some reason they will love being with an Oriental, but then they see a white girl with a black lose their mind. So let's be honest about that. Now,
once they lose their mind, listen, I want to explain something to you because I noticed that when black people talk about this, they act like it's a one-way street. I've been with plenty, especially when I was with this mixed girl who was very pretty. She was even a model. This was many years ago. It was probably about 10 years or so ago. But being in some interracial relationships myself, that like look that you're talking or like the disdain that people have for you. I mean, black folks are really open about it. I mean, I was getting hated on left and right for that. So, and black people are more vocal. They'll actually say something to you. Where white people, we might just think whatever, be like, oh damn, shorty, another one lost to the other team and keep it moving. You know, where black dudes will get vocal. Like, you're acting like it's not a two-way street. Almost all.
Look, I will recognize that. Yes, they're probably also like if a black man is with a white woman, yes, you probably are going to see black women who size, right? But anyway, that's
the idea that you're talking about, the notion that the white dudes like trip out more than the black dudes. That is 100% false. That is,
yeah. I'm like, come on, bro. I'm like,
that is completely backwards.
I have historical data back in this. I'm like, blacks are not out here. They were lynching folks for even looking at a white girl. Come on.
If you're talking about back in the day, I mean,
I'm talking about historically, right? But anyway,
they didn't lynch people for looking at white. That's bullshit, man. For looking at them, that's bullshit.
Yes, for looking at a white girl,
I'm calling cap on that, bro.
That's it. That's Emmett Till. Come on, let's be honest with that.
I knew it. I knew it. We could always go back to Emmett.
That's the truth. That was a comment in the South. But
we have to bring Hammer. Listen, so we have to bring the case up from like fucking. A million fucking years ago, because that's how common it is.
And yes, because that white female never went to jail and died free. Yeah, it's never gonna go away.
And first off, here's something else too. I've noticed something when debating blacks. I noticed, and Tariq Nasheed, of course, is an expert at this, and his followers. You're familiar with Mike Tilley, etc.
Go ahead.
Okay, but I'm just saying his followers, but use similar tactics in the sense that you'll take historical events that once you dig deeper into them, you find out the original story that you're taught is bullshit. It turns out Emmett Till did way more than just look at some fucking white woman. He was legit trying to mac. He was trying to mac the bitch.
Okay, you know what? Here's what I'm gonna look.
He was.
I already know all the rhetoric that y'all have, and then you're gonna tell me that the Jews control everything. Look, that's fine. Here's the thing,
dude. You weren't there. I wasn't there. We don't know what happened. I mean, that's the safest thing to say. But they didn't just lynch black dudes for looking in a white woman's direction.
There isn't a dude. There's documented evidence of black people being lynched, especially black people, for even looking at a white female. Let's be honest about that.
We don't know those whole stories, though. I mean, y'all could have been acting up.
No. But going back to I don't know how we even got on this topic, but
going back to talk about previous centuries, that shit's not even relevant.
Yeah. But going back to the topic, look, you do, and I heard it. So you do understand how it's the white, you guys, the white collective, destabilized South America. And now
that's our CIA that did that. That's our CIA and corrupt government. My family, we personally.
Okay, see, stop right there. See, this is what I'm talking about. White people, specifically white men, you guys want to pick and choose when you want to unify based on whiteness.
I'm not guilty.
When it's time to claim Napoleon, when it's time to claim Roman Greece, you're all white. That's those niggas. You're all white. But then when it's time to claim the other side, the slavery, the colonization, all of a sudden you guys become individuals, right? I see all the time.
You cannot blame me.
Pick and choose when you're white.
Hammer, listen, you cannot blame me for the entirety of what the fuck the U.S. government does. The average white citizen here, especially in a Western state where I am, we have a strong distrust for the government fundamentally, historically, since 1800.
And yet, you guys claim Greece and Rome. Isn't that right?
What do you mean we claim Greece and Rome? I don't mean that was so long ago.
White Americans, specifically whites, claim Greece and Rome. Isn't that true?
You still can't blame me for what the fucking U.S. government
Well,
does.
ask the question. You know this in your community. White people in general claim the civilizations of Greece and Rome. Is that correct?
Yeah, why would we not?
Okay, so none of you guys are Greek or Romans, but yet you claim a civilization.
What do you mean? Rome, the Holy Roman Empire was those are people of German descent. So, me being like a quarter German,
the Holy
it's
Roman
safe to say
Empire.
I'm.
Hold up, that's after the split, right? The Holy Roman Empire. After the split. I'm talking about when they were still unified.
The Roman Empire was Germans, dude. They're fucking Aryan-looking people.
I don't know about them being Germans.
Were the Romans black now? Is that where we're going?
No.
Okay.
That's not what I'm saying.
Please
is
don't
that
Tariq Nasheed
more than
this.
likely they were not Anglo-Saxon.
Yes, they were. What the fuck are you talking
The
about?
Germans, the Romans were Anglo-Saxon. Come on, don't do that.
No, I'm sorry. You have to switch it around. Anglo-Saxons are descendants of Germans. They immigrated from Germany to the island.
Yes, but it belongs to the group. And
it's the same people, bro.
I don't believe that the Romans and the Greeks were Germanic tribes. I don't believe that. I don't that. But based on I don't. So no, my thing is this: if you, as a white person in 2024, can claim a civilization almost 1,000 years ago, don't talk to me about how I can't blame you for the government that your people created. Like
no, but that was a lot. That back then, I don't know all the intricacies. Like, sure, maybe there was some military campaigns that they did I didn't approve of, etc. But like when it comes to
that's the hypocrisy you guys do.
How
you
the
guys
fuck is that hypocrisy? Okay, Hammer, you have a big issue on your hands here. You have a huge issue, and I'll tell you why. Because if I'm responsible for everything the United States government has done, that means all the FBA clique, the Tariq Nasheeds and all his followers, they swear that they built the foundation of this country. That means they're 100% liable, just like me. And then someone like yourself, of course, it's always the people that flee from the shithole in Africa that fucking complain about shit here, right? You're one of them, right? So now you're a citizen here, and you need to claim responsibility for one of the 7 wars.
No, because America is a white settler state. Like, let's be honest here. Okay?
We're less than 50% of the population. You can't just. I get that.
What are you talking about? You're not less than white people. Let's see, percent of the majority. What are you talking about here? Not a minority in this country. The reality. Okay, let me ask you that. Who built? Okay, look, I know Tariq Nasheed wants to go on this record, but who really created this country?
It's gonna be the Anglo-Saxon. It's our
white settlers.
Right.
Now I understand the FBA and the $8 want to cry. I don't care about it doesn't matter. We know that the Anglo-Saxons were the ones who established the United States, and they're the ones who like. Yes, Black Americans will use a slave labor. We get that, but
yeah, there's still
the actual country itself was created by white Americans.
I know that, but there's still a 13 to 20. It's 13% now, but it ranged historically the last 300 years from 13 to 20% of the population. There's still a Black population that's here. Are they also liable for the whole actions?
No, because
it's just whitey, right? It's all
whitey. The Civil Rights Act, they were not even really citizens of this country. Let's keep it real.
Sure, I'm talking about
let me ask you a question.
Sure.
In what time in the U.S. history has Black Americans ever controlled this country?
I guess it's safe to say that they never really had too heavy. There's Black billionaires and shit in business. That is some control, whether you'd like to admit it or not.
You mean like Kanye West, who lost $1 billion in what 24 hours?
Well, who'd he lose it from? That's because he was beefing with the Jews.
Oh, now it's going to be the Jews control everything, right?
Oh, the Jews do control our country. Yeah, I swear to God, yeah, that's true. That's accurate. Yeah, 96.
It's just dude, that's why I love talking. Like, I know your archetype. I know this. I talk about it all the time, right? The white dude who he buys into whiteness when it comes time to claim Western civilization. But then when it's time to claim Western atrocities as an individual, and then when it comes time to whiteness, they align with the Jews. But then when it comes to atrocity, the Jews
we do not ever align with the Jews. If you're talking about people that are involved with movements such as myself or a typical white nationalist, we do not align ourselves with that. Is no, not ever. Absolutely
Jews
not.
Are classified as white. Is that
I don't give a fuck what you call them. You guys, the FBAs and Africans always delineate. Well, we delineate from them because, and it's a really good. It's an expert.
Let me give you a lesson about FBA, doc. I'm listening, right?
Sure.
The FBA ADOS or a subgroup of Black Americans online that essentially don't want to be African. So they're going around talking about how they're Native Americans or Moors, or they're saying all kinds of crazy stuff.
I agree.
But
it
really,
sounds like it
yeah,
sounds like you and I should gang up on them. Yeah, I
but
agree.
all of this comes down because they don't want to be African. That's all it is, right? But everyone can see the BS. So they don't represent all Black America. I would say most Black Americans don't even know what that is. Although most Black Americans do tend to have sort of an inferior complex with Africa, most of them don't know what FBA is.
So
we gotta keep in mind.
Here's the thing, though. Let me say this one thing. Let me get this off real quick. So when it comes to the delineation, how the FBAs and Africans like delineate, well,
no, it's the FBAs.
It's the FBAs. I agree.
Everybody else, yeah,
you're right.
Africans
well,
and like we're just minding our own business. They're the ones that are going around attacking people. That's what's happening.
Well, check this out. That delineation is a fucking perfect, and I mean perfect example to our equal to our delineation from the Jews, because if you think about it, you guys, I'm sorry, not you, because you're from Africa, but the FBAs that are here, well, they're only like, they have like white admixture, they're kind of mixed. And if you look at Jews, they're like 70% Caucasian and like 30%, like Middle Eastern origin or something else. So like it's a perfect delineation from the FBAs Africans to us and Jews. And here's the thing. I'm not sure if you and I touched on this before, but you're like, oh, I know your archetype, as if I'm just like spewing bullshit or something. Look, man, you can look it up for yourself. The owner of the media companies, 96% of our media is owned by Jews. It's owned by them. Okay. If you look at who controls the banking industry, it's them. I mean, it's just.
Now, here's the thing. I will agree with you that, Jewish people do tend to be overrepresented in the area. But
so why do you laugh it off then? Like, oh, God.
But here's the problem with that rhetoric. At the end of the day, they're all viewed as white. That's the point.
No, just because
you look, people like you look. I hope you understand. Can you at least acknowledge that your point of view is not the majority of white people in America?
A lot of white people might not know any better. Just
not
like
the majority. This.
Just because people don't know a truth has nothing to do.
Okay,
that doesn't mean anything.
So we agree. The majority of white people in America view Jews as white.
I mean, it depends. I mean, if we look at Israel,
come on, you know this.
No, I don't, because it's not that easy. Because if you look at Israel, Hamas, the conflict, if you look at Israel over there, they're all those Jews are tan. They're all tan Jews in the Middle East. They're not white at all.
Once again, I understand what you're saying from your like. Can you at least acknowledge that the broader of your own white community views them as white?
The Ashkenazis, just one subset of Jews, that are in America.
Dude, you know this. You know, if we go and ask most white people, they'll say Jews is white. We know this. Like you, ironically, they would call you alt-right. You know that, right?
Oh, that's fine. Alt-right's that term's kind of been retired. That's a couple years old.
Will call you alt-right for what you said. So we acknowledge that most of your own community, it doesn't. The Jew thing doesn't matter to me. It's irrelevant because if the majority of white people view them as white, they're essentially white, and they're going to operate in that way. That's all it is.
I mean, either way, the delineation's still there. I mean, they're trying to destroy our country.
There is no delineation. Look, ironically, you kind of are similar to FBA, right? You're some like offshoot online that nobody really cares about in real life.
That's not true. There's tons of people. There's a couple million.
Tell me one mainstream organization. Hell, let's go to the right. Tell me one conservative mainstream organization that's talking about Jews not white.
Jews literally own the media, so it's mainstream media. No, it's going to be in the alternative media.
One mainstream conservative organization that says that Jews are not white.
Okay, cool.
Fox News says they're white. Even Tucker Carlson says they're white. Even Donald Trump says they're white. So where on the right wing do the white folks that are not white? It's only all right.
Even if someone has the same skin tone, I mean, again, it's the same. I'll give you an example. And the blacks that are in the know, let's say I discover a high IQ black, they seem to always know the difference. It's only the low IQ blacks are like day white. Because here's the thing. Check this out. Hey, no. Let me get this one out real quick. Listen, I can go to India and I could find someone darker than you. Are they the same race as you, or are they Indian?
No, obviously not, because they're
Indian. They're a different. They're a different racial group, right? They're a different.
Because Niger Congo people is not just skin color. It's
right. So they're a different racial group. So why is this so fucking far fetched and difficult for you to grasp that they're a different group?
your racial group accepts them as white. You are just a minority within your own group. And I
What
don't
do you mean
feel
accepts them? Jews have always done their own thing historically. I mean, look in the previous century. Did Germany accept them for being white? I don't think so, buddy. I
Look,
think they
you're
saw them as a
100%
different.
right. Historically, Jews were not viewed as white. I get you're right about that.
Right.
But after World War II, after the Holocaust, the entire
The
white
Holocaust
community
never happened,
globally.
dude. The Holocaust, as you know it, and it's been taught, the Holocaust. There's no such thing as 6 million.
Well,
It just didn't.
Look, I have to protect my channel. We're not going to go into
I know. My bad. All right.
This is what it's like. YouTube, yeah. I believe in the Holocaust, so I'm not very clear.
Right, so you literally know who like owns and controls and polices the platform, but you still blame Whitey at the end of the day. That's so.
We're not going to touch on that.
That's so funny.
I believe in the Holocaust. Just want to make sure YouTube understands that.
Yeah, I got you. And we can't even talk about it because those are our true rulers, right? But you're too scared to talk about our true rulers.
You don't believe in the Holocaust. We'll leave it at that. But going back to what was being said. It doesn't look. I agree with you that before the Holocaust, they weren't considered white. Same thing with Italians. Same thing with Irish, right? We know this. But guess what? After, right, especially I was after World War II, the Irish, the Italians, and the Jews are now considered white by the white community globally. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you as the individual white man says. If the majority of the people within your group views them as white, guess what? They're white.
You're only talking about one group of Jews, or the Ashkenazi. If it's Sephardic Jews or Middle Eastern Jews,
they don't make a difference.
Yes, oh my God. So Middle Eastern fucking Jews. If I go to the jewelry exchange in LA, it's all dark-skinned Middle Eastern fucking Jews. They are not white.
Let me ask you a question.
I don't give a fuck.
Do you think the average white person says, Sephardic, all that stuff, or they just
no? They're not going to be as knowledgeable as someone like me that's delved into the topic.
Exactly. So what does that mean? That means that doesn't matter.
So if the masses,
like they don't care about all that. They're just white. That's how this is viewed.
So let me get this straight, Hammer. So Hammer, let me get this straight. So if the masses are wrong about something and I'm right, that must mean that I have to sacrifice truth and be wrong like the masses. No thanks.
Let's be honest here. Jewish people do have majority, I would say, Caucasian, DNA. They are Caucasian.
It's like 70%, yeah. And you can even
from my point of view as a black man, if you're 70% Caucasian, you're essentially white. That's white to me.
It's kind of like it's the same story as FBAs and how FBAs are probably like 70% black and 30% whatever else. So just like
hard to understand.
So just like Tariq Nasheed and his crew, I'm delineating when with them Jews. If the Jews are fucking up, you can't put that shit on me.
But don't you understand the irony in what you just said? Like, the reason why the FBAs and ADOS don't take it serious is because of the stuff they say. You kind of just put yourself in the same category, right? That's the reason why people like you are not in the mainstream of white America.
Dude, they say shit that is fucking so retarded. It's not even comparable to the shit we say.
And that's how the majority of white people view people like you. You understand that, right? When you're coming in the room talking about Jews not white, they put you out for the mainstream.
Let
me ask you a question. Could you go on any mainstream white channel talking about this? You cannot. Could you go on any mainstream white network talking about this?
Why is that? We can't talk about the Jays on YouTube as we just got through with as well, right?
No. We cannot spread false propaganda, false misinformation. That's the problem. But look,
that's not false information. It's the Hammer. You're like making
saying that the Holocaust did not happen is false information.
You are turning this into like a fucking algebra problem. It's not that complicated. Here's the deal, Hammer. Okay, that particular ethnic group owns Google, which in turn owns YouTube. That ethnic group owns it. Therefore, they're not since they own and control YouTube. They're not going to let you say anything negative about them. It has nothing to do whether it's true or false. That has nothing. And nothing to do
doesn't let me say anything negative about other groups, right, including black.
You can say whatever you want about white. You know that, and the reason why you can say anything you want about
because white people are the majority, I guess.
We're actually that's rapidly changing, like you were saying. But the thing is, like the reason why you could say whatever you want.
That's the context. Jews are viewed as a minority group.
Yeah. Hopefully, a minority group we can get rid of someday. But here's the thing.
We're not doing that. We're not.
I know. I was just joking.
He does not represent my channel, YouTube. But go ahead.
I just meant them to leave my country and leave me alone. That's all.
Anyway, I think we'll spend enough time on the debate. Let's move to another topic. I'm happy you're here because we can have the conversation with a direct white supremacist.
Why
but
you say white supremacist? Listen. You say that
because when
you
you're
say
talking
you're
about the
Tariq.
Holocaust doesn't exist, that is white supremacist rhetoric.
First off, see, and here's just another massive problem. Okay, when someone like you argues, I know it's strictly based off of emotion because you're, oh, well, they said it doesn't exist. I did not say.
No, because there's no like. What you're saying is the equivalent of what you just said. What you just said about the Holocaust is the equivalent of Tariq Nasheed that Black Americans are natives. That's how dumb that. Yo, what happened to your audio? It's not coming through. Off and see. I don't hear you. You're not coming through. You're not coming through. Okay, he came in with another device. Let me bring it up. Hear me now? Off air and see. Let me see. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we're good. But yeah, I'm not saying that there was many genocides in the previous century. There's a lot of happenings going on. So I didn't say it didn't happen. But you say white supremacist.
I don't have that.
This is straight out of the Tariq Nasheed playbook. Like as soon as you meet a white person, oh, it's a white supremacist. Oh, it's
no.
It's so stupid. I don't call
what
you a
you
fucking
just
black
said
supremacist for the
has no factual basis. That's the point. Like
I know how factual basis for what? For what?
That the Holocaust never happened. That's factually incorrect. There's no
don't. Are you? I have family over there that lived the time period.
Okay.
Yeah, you bet your ass I do.
Well, we're not doing that.
Okay.
We have.
That's right. Yeah, we can't talk about that topic because of our rulers. You're right. But let's just talk bad about Whitey because we can't do that, right? We can't talk about Whitey.
What you're saying is that all the evidence, all the consequences, those don't matter. Because of some individual person,
there was definitely camps, but as far as we're talking like the deaths of like 6 million people on a large systematic scale. There's no mass graves anywhere that have 80,000 bodies. I mean, it's just not there, bro. It's just not there.
I'm like, it was gassed and burned. So like, come on, man. Look.
There's so-called Holocaust survivors that claim that they were like, yeah, 60,000 people were buried there, then 100,000 people were, and they looked into that stuff.
Okay,
I have another question. Let me. Can I just want to make one final point on that topic, Hammer, and I really hope this makes it crystal clear. Whenever you learn you see a lot of Holocaust survivors, right? Over the years, you see a lot, right? There's a lot of Holocaust survivors. Well, tell me this. If they were all death camps, then how the fuck is every old Jew a fucking Holocaust survivor? If they all survived, then how the fuck were they all death camps? Could you explain that, sir? Yeah, that's what I thought. That's
many of them survived the Holocaust. Many of them were able to escape.
There's like every old Jew you see on the news, apparently like a Holocaust survivor. We're taught in school that they were death camps, that they were sent there and put to death immediately, especially Auschwitz.
Yeah, but you do realize that when they came and freed, right, there were many who had survived.
Right, and there's just millions of survivors.
Why is that hard to understand? You have folks who fled before the Nazi took over, and you have folks who survived that.
Either way, even if you and
in any massacre, you're always gonna survive. Everybody knows that.
Could you still explain one thing to me? How am I, just because you and I disagree on a historical event from a very long time ago, how does that make me a white supremacist?
You're a white supremacist because you ironically have some of the similar beliefs. Like white supremacists are known for going around saying the Holocaust.
Well, the majority of white nationalists.
White supremacists are known for picking and choosing when they want to be white.
You're just brainwashed by mainstream media and like
because the term white supremacy is a mainstream media. Look, this video right here is mainstream media. Saying that they've been saying for years that Ukraine was going to win. I don't agree with that. I'm saying the West is over. What I'm saying is actually against mainstream media.
Fuck.
You know this?
Sorry, I missed that. I just had to take a call. I apologize. Well, what did you say?
Yeah, look, you see this video right now. Like mainstream media has been saying that Ukraine was going to win. I've been against that. I'm actually like
I don't give a
my
fuck
rhetoric is actually against the mainstream media because they're saying the Western. But I'm saying no.
But Hammer, that term white supremacist, that's literally a media term. Most white nationalists, the majority of white people, okay, that are in that movement, the majority of white nationalists, whether it's neo-Nazi all the way down to just typical white nationalist conservative, all light, whatever you call it, okay, all of them are separatists. I would say probably about 90+% of them are separatists. They just want to get the fuck away from everybody else. So this idea that they want to have you here and rule over you and be supreme is 100% again just
Do you
another
understand
fallacy.
the irony of being a white settler in America talking about you want to separate?
Okay, fuck it then. You guys, so we'll just give America back to whoever's fucking land it was. How about Europe? Can I at least have Europe to myself? Oh, that's right. I can. It's getting flooded by your people as well.
I'm like, look. I made a look. Okay, okay. How much do you watch my channel?
Not often. I just happened to catch you today.
I made a recent video called "Europe is for Europeans," right? And it was in quotation marks. The point was to call out the hypocrisy of the white. We said, look, I have no problem with you saying that, but you can't have it both ways. You can't say Europe is for Europeans while you are living in North America. You can't say Europe is for Europeans while you're living in South Africa. You can't say Europe is for Europeans.
I agree. Hey, Hammer.
If Europe is for Europeans, then that needs to be applied to white settlers too. That's my only point.
Listen, I totally agree with you when it comes to the Boer crisis, the South Africans, which they want the white people back now because they can't maintain the farming on their own. But how the South Africans had to flee. Listen, how the South Africans had to flee the white people. I'm totally cool with that. That's y'all's continent. You can have it. Just let us have Europe.
Thank you. See, at least you're being consistent. I like the right because I don't like folks online who talk about, we want to. Why can't we have our own countries? But he's in America. Like what?
But
you're
the majority
in Canada talking about Europe for Europeans.
But even if it's this landmass in North America, dude, this is a massive landmass. I mean, there's enough land here that
if the principal idea is that because white people are indigenous to Europe, they deserve that land. I agree to that. So with that same standard, that means every single white person outside of Europe is therefore an invader. That means you don't have any right to North America. You don't.
Well, that means you're an invader too, because you're from Africa.
Well, I guess you could. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
right?
we're all invaders.
The only reason why I'm here is because it's already been set up by white settlers.
You're here because it's a superior system to that compared to that country you came from, and that's the fact.
Obviously because West Africa was common, but the whole point is that when you look at it, right, all of this only happens because there was already a settler population that pushed Native Americans up to here. My thing is this: if you guys are consistent, the only consistent people that I've come across are the ones who say that everyone should be their own continent. So they will say whites in North America need to go back to Europe, whites all over to Europe. See, those are the ones in which when they say Europe is for Europeans, I agree with because they're being consistent. But you can't come to me talking about Europe for Europeans, but you chilling in North America.
Okay,
come on.
That's totally cool. Europe's the homeland. If I need to go back to Europe, if everyone goes back to their homeland and we all live happily ever after, that's totally a plan that I'm cool with. But as far as this continent, though, Hammer, like I was telling you, this is an extremely large landmass here to where even if races want to live separately here, there's enough room to actually do that. I mean, you could have your Mexican quadrant,
but that's the irony. If that's how it's going to be, then therefore you can't say Europe is for Europeans. Like, do you understand what I'm saying?
I mean, as long as we're not
as long as white people occupy settler states, here's what I will say, right? Because I'll hear white people say, "Well, why
doesn't make me a doesn't make me a white supremacist, sir."
Well, it makes you a white settler, but here's the look: as long as you occupy white settler states, ironically you lose the right to your indigenous territory. That's my point of view. Like you can't go to push other people out their territory like white South Africans, but then cry about Europe.
It's still, yeah. I mean, again, it still doesn't make me a white. I'm kicking it here now with my.
I'm like, fine. If you don't have fine, but what it does make you is a white settler. It makes you a hypocrite.
I'm not a hypocrite. I just want America. I'm an American now. I just want what's best for my country. That's
you
all.
understand? That's what I'm saying is the hypocrisy. Being an American national is a contradiction because you're not native to this territory. You can't cry
that
about
argument is dumb as fuck. Anyway, that's so stupid. Only the trees are native to this territory. The Indians and shit that were here,
Native Americans.
Oh, that is so retarded. Really? So the Native Americans just sprouted out of the ground somewhere. It turns out they immigrated via like the ice bridge from Russia, and they came elsewhere
thousands of years ago.
Let me tell you something else, Sonny. I live in a state.
And where do you think white people came from?
I live in a state that has tons of
Where
Native
do
Americans.
you think white people came from in Europe, right? Because we
came from them caves, man. You know what it is.
Came from Germany, right?
Sure, yeah.
So does that mean that Anglo's not indigenous to the UK anymore?
I mean, by your rhetoric, no.
But no, they are indigenous.
I said rhetoric.
That's the whole point. Everybody understands this concept. See, I'm not going to say why, because look, I understand when it
comes to What do you mean understands it? Right? I don't understand your concept. Listen, here where I live, there's tons of Native Americans. And
Let me break it down to you.
Some have very Asian features, so they weren't here originally either.
Most people expanded throughout the globe, right? And they also developed based on where they were at.
That's right.
Europeans developed, in my opinion, within Europe. So even though they may have expanded throughout the continent, because that was their continent, they're essentially in that region. Same thing how Anglo-Saxons, they may have gone there from Germany, but they're still indigenous. Because why? They're European, right? Same thing with the blacks the Bantu who expanded throughout Africa. Same thing when it comes to native tribes who expanded throughout North America. Why? That's their continent. So if you're gonna make the argument,
they weren't native to this land, though. They immigrated from somewhere years prior as well. The only thing that's native here is the trees that sprout up in the plains.
Their territory. Same way how the Anglos went from Germany towards the British Isles, and that became a territory. Okay. Now here's the thing: if you're
they weren't even a country anyway. The Native Americans weren't a country anyway. They're a bunch of divided little tribes. And you know what? Let me tell you. Let me tell you.
Like, you're doing it right now. That's the whole point. Like, you can't have it both ways. You cannot make the argument that Europe is for Europeans, but then justify being anywhere outside of Europe. That's what I'm saying. Y'all cannot have it. You're going to have to make a choice. If you want to justify being in these settler states, then by default, you forfeit your right for Europe to be for Europeans. That's how it works.
But who even said that this land was even Native American land? Though it wasn't officially a country. There was no country. They were tribes. and did you know some, Hammer? These motherfuckers are so. These motherfuckers.
Y'all see this? I said it. But go ahead.
Yeah. Peep it. Did you know these motherfuckers? These Native Americans, they were so fucking low IQ that when the white man came here and started taking their land, these dumb motherfuckers, instead of squatting up to,
we're not gonna call fellow human beings low IQ. By the way, it doesn't matter.
They don't know
Here's the issue. It doesn't matter if they were less developed.
Let me get it off. Listen, these Native Americans, when the white man was here, taking all that territory, whatever, instead of standing together, these motherfuckers were still annihilating and capturing and enslaving themselves, bro. If that doesn't tell you that this is not their nation, this was not a nation.
Okay, so with that same logic, that means that the rest of the world is entitled to flood Europe. And if you guys are fighting each other, then it's what it is.
Well, I kind of agree with your statement. It's like, okay, the rest of the world.
Whatever statement you make about Native Americans, you have to accept it for white Europeans. So if you're saying that because they were fighting each other, that justifies it, fine. That means the same way Europeans are fighting politically were justified to come in there and push you guys out.
We had countries and kingdoms, though. The Native Americans didn't have
anything. If y'all are fighting each other, then we have the right to come in there and flood Europe, right?
I mean, I agree with your statement to this extent. I agree that Europe, of course, should just be for Europeans, and if people can attempt to come and invade, but then of course we should just have the smite, of course, to just push them back.
Do you at least understand how you just contradict yourself right now?
I'm still not a white supremacist. I still don't want to rule over other people.
I don't care about that.
I don't want to rule over.
You did what white people do all the time. You did what white people do in real time.
What?
You were on one hand trying to justify what's happening to Native Americans, And then when I flipped the tables, all of a sudden you backed away. Because once again, Europeans had World War I and World War II.
I know, very sad. I know.
They have a long history of fighting each other. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's sad. I know. We're coerced.
So if you're going to say that because Native Americans were fighting each other, that justifies, and by default, we're Europeans in all the wars. I'm like, they're in the war right now. That means anytime you guys are in the war, we have the right to flood your homelands, right?
Every group's at war, pretty much. I mean, Middle East, Africa. How many tribes are warring in Africa right now?
It's too easy. It's too easy for white. It's too easy.
I don't understand the point. You're trying to say that you got me, but I don't understand on what you're saying.
That's the reason why I keep saying. Why is it that the white people who love talking about IQ have the most low IQ behavior? That's what's sad to me.
My IQ is just fine. There's nothing low IQ about my rhetoric at all.
Okay. Let me walk you through this off here and see, to help you out.
Go ahead.
You said that because Native Americans are fighting each other, that justified Europeans invading them, right?
I'm not going to say full scale, 100% justification.
They were not unified, essentially.
I won't say all that, Joe.
But they were not unified.
Not at all. No, they were killing each other instead. They should have pushed the white man into the sea. That's what they should do.
Okay, thank you. So by default, with the same logic, anytime Europeans are at war and not unified, the rest of the world in that moment has the right to flood your homelands.
Sure. Yeah, I guess.
Now, if you're consistent, you'll say yes.
Well, that's yeah. I mean,
and if you're a hypocrite, you'll say no.
If it was militarily and countries try to come in, then yeah, we'd want that.
It doesn't matter.
We love war. You know that.
Invasions. Look, you didn't know this, right? Invasions don't have to be with force. You can just migrate somewhere and take over demographically. So this refugee stuff can be in some ways an invasion.
In the previous century or two. I mean, traditionally it wasn't like that. It
wasn't. But let's be honest.
There's usually
right?
war back in the day.
If it results in demographic changes, it can be in many ways viewed as maybe a softer version. But you know this. So same thing when it came, for example, the westward expansion. When whites expanded westward, they were just moving demographically, right? But
no, that was war. Those were military campaigns.
Partially was war, but a lot of it was just them moving into territory. And
what do you mean? It was all war. We took the West with the Mexican-American War. What the hell are you talking about?
And then you had those conflicts, but a lot of it was also moving into territories too.
The midsection of the country, the Louisiana Purchase, bought from France.
Yeah, the French, yeah.
So I mean, so whether it was purchasing or campaigning.
I just want you to understand the hypocrisy here. If you're saying that because Native Americans were in conflict with each other, that justifies you taking a territory or moving the territory, then by default, anytime Europeans are in disarray, then that essentially means that the rest of the world has the right to migrate into those regions.
Sure.
Or invade those territories. Can you at least acknowledge that?
Yeah, I can get down with that. I can get down.
Thank you. Thank you, Iqbal. I don't know, Iqbal. You came in later into the conversation.
But Hammer, so you think with the Native Americans, people they had zero technology. So you think this whole landmass should just not be utilized for its great use?
My whole thing is this: it's all based on the principle of the argument, right?
Yeah, I agree.
If you want to be consistent on your argument, then yes. That's what I'm saying. Look,
I still want to drive home why you.
I have a problem with Europe being for Europeans. I have a problem with you guys picking and choosing.
But I still want to know why you call me a white supremacist. I'm telling you, you gotta stop just on impulse, a knee-jerk reaction, calling white people that disagree with you or are nationalists white supremacists. It just doesn't make any sense. We all work with black people.
Here's the typical behaviors I see from white supremacists, right?
No. The term supremacist itself, the word supremacist is incorrect.
I'm like, you just called Native Americans low IQ.
Man, they're dumbest, man. They're fucking alcoholics, man. I see them on the reservation all the time. But listen,
yeah, because they have to deal with the fact that their territory was taken from them.
Oh yeah, they're still drinking because they're drinking because they're depressed. They lost.
Yeah, they're cold.
Right. Yeah, you know the free shit they get. No, Hammer. Let me teach you.
How many times do white people cry online about losing Europe?
I mean, that choice. Yeah, but we don't like drink all day on a reservation and say, "Oh, it's because we're losing Europe."
If Europe was completely occupied by Black Africans and y'all want reservation in Europe, you'll be drinking too.
Oh, we just have to take that joint, but there's no time as men.
No, I mean, if you were in the exact same predicament, I'm talking about you were completely conquered. There was no way to fight back, and you were put in reservations. You guys would be drinking too.
There's something that you, and again, you're new to America. Please, listen. You happen to be talking to a man that lives in a very, very, very heavy Native American state, and you're talking about a bunch of shit that you know fucking nothing about. I could tell for a fact you don't fucking know a damn Native American.
Look,
Dan, please, you must hear me out here. Because these people have it so fucking good, Hammer. They literally don't have to work. They get free tax money. Yeah. Did you know that the Palms Casino in Las Vegas, the Palms Casino, the top 2 floors you can rent, it's the most expensive hotel room in the world to rent. It's $78,000 a night. It even comes with a butler with a British accent. Would you believe it? But anyway, that casino, the Palms Casino in Vegas, is owned by a group of Native Americans that are only 200 deep. It's only 200 people. This makes each one of them a fucking multi-millionaire by default. Okay.
Now,
so from the free tax money to the casinos to all the free shit to not having to work, they have it fucking. They're in fucking paradise. So this garbage that you just try to say is, oh, they have it so bad.
Okay.
Because you took
now. Let me ask you a question, right? Since you believe we're such in a paradise, would you accept the same fate for white Europeans?
So fuck yeah, man! Fucking own the Palms Casino and not fucking work and get a reservation.
Let me say it.
Do you realize that a reservation is separating? That's separatism. That's what.
Now,
yeah.
Listen to what I just said. I'm talking about
man,
would you accept Europe being completely ruled by Black Africans and you guys have your little reservation there? That is still under the rule of the Black majority.
If blacks ruled Europe, it'd be a shithole. So no, my reservation would be pretty bad. But Native Americans got it good. Sorry,
and that's why I say you're a white supremacist.
Why am I supremacist? Well, why can't y'all just give us our props? Why can't we just be like, okay, Europeans are good at creating systems?
That, like, come on, bro, come on.
Hammer doesn't
be honest about it. It's cool. It is. Just be honest.
Here's the thing, though, Hammer. It's like. It still doesn't make me a supremacist because there's other racial groups that are better than me in other aspects. For example, the highest IQ group is like East Asians, right? When it comes to athletics,
see, this is what I do, right?
When it comes to athletics, I mean, I can't fucking compete with LeBron James and some other black people as far as, stuff like that. So every culture has like a strong, and I'm not going to sit here and try to devalue like blacks as if they have no value. That is 100% false. That is not true. You will never catch me saying that. Okay. I grew up in a very pretty black area. You're not going to catch me saying that. But as far as countries go, like, why can't you just like give us our props? Like, it doesn't really matter what you and I even say on the topic, Hammer, because everyone's fleeing to white countries for a reason, bro. They want to live around us for a reason.
Let me ask you a question.
We're chill.
I love the fact that you brought this up. Why do you think people are going to white countries?
I mean, it's mainly for economic benefits, but they know that we're chill.
Okay.
They know that we're a chill, low crime, high.
Why do you think that their countries are in the situation it's in?
Oh, let me guess. It's all, hey, we're playing Jeopardy. The answer must be, it's all Whitey's fault.
That is a very simplistic way of saying it.
So it's all white. So it's all white people's fault. It's like North Korea, that's white people's fault.
Slavery.
Somalia. Oh, slavery. We were slaves too at one point. And guess what? We were actually slaves.
Oh my God.
Y'all motherfuckers for one point. Where's the word slave come from? What word does that derive from?
It's like, dude, this is sad, bro. This is sad. Like, did you just talk about white folks being slaves? Is that what we're doing now? Are we doing that now?
So whites were never slaves. That's what we're going with. That's
okay. Are you talking about the Barbary slave trade with the whites being brought to?
Oh man, that's just one of them. I mean, you look at the Roman Empire, the Greek. I mean, the tons of white people have been slaves.
But you do understand that historically, slavery was essentially a tantamount to indentured servitude, right? And you weren't born a slave.
Servants are still slaves.
You weren't treated as subhuman, and it wasn't tied to a skin color.
Dude, indentured servants were almost synonymous with slaves. They did the same work as slaves. They were literally kicking it with the slaves, bro. Indentured servants
were recognized as human beings, and they had rights. They could actually sue, I think, the person they were in contract with. What are you
Dude,
talking about?
whites have been whether it's being taken prisoners in the Crusades or the Barbary pirates, like you're talking about, like Arabs enslaved a ton of
You do
Europeans.
understand that in all those situations, they were still viewed as human beings, right?
When the Arabs enslaved the Europeans, like 1 million of us, you're saying that they still treat us like humans? They like took the young daughters, took the wives, raped them, all that shit. Oh yeah, we're treated like great humans.
They did
Fuck yeah.
Yes, they did atrocities, but in terms of you weren't classified as subhuman.
We ended up on this topic because like you're still blaming the whole.
In
so
fact,
like
you guys
condition,
ended up being absorbed. So that now North Africa has a large European white ancestry. Am I wrong?
Sure, North Africa, yeah, and that's the real Moors. That's not the black ass ones.
They did not put you on the chattel slavery and treat you like dogs, or let's not do that.
Sure.
Say this person can't read. Like, come on.
Well, that was only 22% in America. That was only 22% of my people, and they shouldn't have did it. I would go back in history and smack them for doing it personally. But there's only 22% of my people even doing that here, because 78% of the slave trade was, in fact, it's the 78% of the slave trade was all of the slave. Did you know not?
Yes, you're 100% right. Most of the slaves that went to the New World went to, I believe, the Caribbean and South America. You're right.
Oh no, I wasn't.
But that is not excuse.
That's not the point. That's not the point I was making. The point I was making was 78% of the slave ships and the slave dealers were, in fact, Jewish. That magical group.
Oh my!
Did you know that not a single? Did you know that not a single slave ship? Not a single slave ship cruised to the U.S. with an American flag.
Black people who are watching,
you just
this is a learning. I make videos about white people like this, but you get to see in real time the mentality.
Hammer, did you know that not a single slave ship coming across the Atlantic, not a single one had our American flag on it? None of them. They were all merchant industrial ships, and 78% of them were owned by Jews. And a lot of blacks know this. A lot of blacks. Dr. Tony Martin
Let's step back, right? Why do you think that is?
What?
That when the slave ships were coming here, they did not have the American flag, based on what you said.
Well, I know for a fact it's because they were Jewish, and I can't justify what another ethnic group does. I'm not responsible for
that. Which European empires were the ones that were mostly involved in the slave trade in the New World?
It's pretty much all of them. Let's be real. I mean, of course, England was,
There's Spain in there. Portugal, I believe, was in there, right?
Yeah. They were Portugal and Spain.
So really we already know that most of the slaves that are brought, especially to the 13 colonies, was done under what? The British Crown, right?
That's not all slavery, though. Slavery is going on in the entire world. The Arab,
I'm talking about the ones that made it to the 13 colonies.
I want to know why the Arabs get a free pass. Like, they started the African slave trade, and they still don't.
Don't get it twisted. I go by the Arabs. Watch my
free pay, yo.
I go at the Arabs hard. I go at them really hard. That's why I keep telling Black Africans, stop fucking with North Africa. Stop dealing with the Hornets. So
I'll take your word for it, my brother. But we still But can you explain something else to me, though? You remember we got into this whole tangent here because you were saying that if someone comes from a shitty country, that it's all evil whitey's fault. Well, I want to know, like, how is like North Korea, or how's that our fault, or how's Japan like doing, or South Korea? They're actually free in one of the most prosperous countries in the world because of a white man. We had to give 50,000
South Korea and Japan are essentially American colonies.
Oh my God! Really, Japan does nothing like us. They don't take in like any immigration, or they do not function like the United States at all. They might wear some North Face.
Literally was forced into a military agreement in which they have to allow you guys to permanently station troops.
True that.
That in which you will abuse the local.
Okay, so I have to think of like
more countries. There's a recent case in which a white man essentially killed a Japanese couple through car, right, and got released in America. Like, what are you talking about? They're treated as second class to white Americans.
We're talking about countries like being okay. Listen, you're saying that you fled from and this is, again, I know it's interesting because you and I, we do team up to say, hey, the FBAs are retarded when it comes to this sense. However, I don't want to sound like my man Tariq Nasheed right now,
You do gotta sound a little bit.
but you did flee. You did flee your country, and now you're in the country that my ancestors. You left your shithole to come to my country that's better, just to complain, bro. Just to complain. And you're the perfect example. You're the perfect example. I love having you as like you are the perfect example.
Yeah, but here's the reason, right?
To wake whitey up. Those stupid white people that don't get it.
I'm simply going to what the reasons are. I'm going to go. All the resources that were plundered from the African continent, plundered from the rest of the world to
so there's no resources.
Yeah.
There's no resources left in Africa still. Africa's still not resource rich.
I mean, it is resource rich once again.
It's rich like a motherfucker.
No,
and you know what? China
do you at least acknowledge, hold up, do you at least acknowledge that we, up until recently, we've lived under Western domination? Globally.
I can give you that, yeah, but for a lot of times,
so
this is where we're going to disagree.
That it was in the West's interest to destabilize the country to have access to resources. We agree to that.
But you and I are going to disagree on this heavy, and that is that if you look at the best countries in Africa, they're the ones that were in fact colonized. So we look at some of our colonization as positives, where you're going to look at it as like fucking hell. So we won't agree on.
Okay, tell me the country that is so good because of white colonization. Tell me.
Well, if you take, I mean, one of the most prosperous countries in Africa, Nigeria, Ivory Coast, and Liberia. Right?
Nigeria's GDP, almost most of the revenue, I believe, is some oil and gas. And even when it comes to the oil sales and everything, a lot of that stuff, they have to rely on the Anglos to literally extract the oil. And
dude, we literally give y'all like millions and we have each African country millions of dollars and hundreds of millions of dollars in foreign aid every fucking year.
Let me ask you a question.
Y'all can't live without us.
Do you believe that your white elites are actually doing that to help those countries?
It's kind of twofold.
Ask yourself the question, because you know your white elites, Ben, right? Do you actually believe as a white man that your white elites is sending this foreign aid because they actually want to help those countries?
Sure. I can answer that very, very in depth. So it's twofold, and I can tell you exactly why. So yes, initially, like you're saying, especially previous centuries, there to just extort resources, stuff like that. So they're there to get resources and shit like that. But at the same time, as a result, just having people of a different ethnic group in that land, they still have been modernized in a sense. Your life expectancy has increased because of the connection with the Europeans. So there's benefits, there's negatives and benefits, is what I would say. But since I'm a nationalist,
look, I've not denied that industrialization began in Europe and that technology is.
Yeah, we modernized the world, man. We got all y'all motherfuckers living
I have no problem.
But y'all ain't never say thank you.
I'm like, let's be honest here. The UK, I believe, was the first to industrialize. So we get that. But here's the thing. I just need you to admit that when they talk about foreign aid, it's not to help the people there. And you know this very well too.
What do you mean? What do you mean? Like the Red Cross and Red Cross handing out like free sugar with my tax dollars?
Those are more like private, like that doesn't really count. Like, for example, Doctors Without Borders.
Your view puts no responsibility on yourself. It's just Africans can just behave like fucking animals, and everything's the white man's fault.
Don't get it twisted. Look,
stupid. It's so fucking retarded, bro.
Black Africans. I go the hardest on them.
You got 12-year-olds with AKs like gunning fucking villages down and shit. But it's
because
he took the resources in 1800s.
Okay.
Get the fuck out of here.
Here's what kills me about this conversation, right? You can understand how the white elites are essentially facilitating migrants going towards the West, but you can't see how they're facilitating chaos in other countries. That's what kills me.
What do you mean? I know exactly why they're doing what they're doing. The elites here, listen, 80% of the world's wealth, 80% of the world's wealth is controlled by Jews. So the majority of elites are.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they are. I mean, you can look them. I can name them for you if you want. It's really not that hard. Listen. I'm very surprised talking to you. Whenever it comes up to my knowledge on that topic of that racial group, you're always like, oh my God.
Look, and you know what? We've already talked about the whole J and everything. Just
Hammer. Listen, man. Did you not know that if someone is in the nationalist movement of like any kind, like white nationalists, even a lot of black nationalists, but like, do you not realize that that's like one of the first That's like one of the first topics that people get like really well versed with. Why do you think there's a stereotype of Jewish people like having money? Like where the fuck do you think that comes from? Money is to Jews what a pizza is to
I have
Italians.
no problem admitting that Jews are successful. The issue I have is
I'm answering your question.
Make it seem as if they're separate from whiteness. No, they're just as a. I don't make a separation.
There is a separate. I already told you genetically. If someone get a genetic test and it literally says whether they are Jewish or not. So
70% Caucasian is white to me.
Yeah, okay, I could.
That's what kills me. Like, dude,
okay, then that dark ass.
I don't even agree with that concept.
Okay, so then when I went to 7-Eleven,
sure, you're essentially a white man.
Okay, well, I'm delineating. If you weren't formerly aware of the delineation, now you know.
You can do all you want to, but the majority of white people agree with me on that concept.
I could use the same rhetoric as you. So next time I go to 7-Eleven and that dark ass dude's working behind the counter, I could say, "Oh, he's darker than Hammer, so he black." I mean, it's just so retarded.
Bro.
If you want to be low IQ,
70% white. That's essentially a white dude, man. Let's not do that. 70%.
Either way, but I can answer your question factually, and that is that 80% of the elites are that group. Yes, there is some of my people that have sold us out. You bet. As nationalists, we all know there are traitors.
My only thing is that why is it that you can understand that those elites can work for certain stuff, but yet you can, for some reason, you can understand how they're also destabilizing other countries? Why is that hard to understand?
I mean, I'm sure they are. I mean, I mainly pay attention to America.
And I hope you also understand that foreign aid is also a weapon to do that too, because it goes in the.
You're right. I'll give you that. Because it is used as a political tool. Because in order to get the aid, they have to play ball. I'll agree.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
But let me conclude. Let me conclude this answer on a factual. So if 80% of the elites are that group. Okay, when they try to do it, if you look historically, the last 2,000 years, especially the last century, World War II, you know, where good old Uncle A trying to teach him a lesson. If you look at that, the beef between us, if you look at what my people have tried to do, always stand in the way of those people when they get out of control. The elites want to get rid of the Caucasian, because as soon as they get rid of the Caucasian, then there's nobody to stop them. The European is the only person that stands up to shit. We're the only ones. I'm sorry. We are the only ones that no. Right there. You know, Hammer. You know damn well.
No, let's not do that.
Whether you admit it or not, Hammer.
After World War II, Jews became white, and they have been working with white men. I don't know why you keep saying that. All right. And that's how it's been.
There is one thing that you do know.
Regardless of what of how you view things, can you at least agree with me that the vast majority of white people in America, in the globe, views as white? You can't not all, but the majority.
Yeah, let's dive into that point. I'm really interested by this point. The reason why I'm utterly perplexed. No, listen. I'm really super duper perplexed, so confused by this, because you're saying you're asking the question: did the average whites consider like Jews white? I guess you're right there. I can give you that.
Before World War II,
but just because the masses
after World War II, yes.
But just because the masses believe so. For example, let's say the 2020 situation.
That's all I need. That's all I need from you. I just need you to admit that the mass does. That's it.
But
and
either
that's
way,
really all that matters to me.
But that's still incomplete.
When the mass doesn't, we can have the conversation. But as long as the mass view them as white, that's it for me.
Okay, well,
so we can agree on that. But the masses view them as white.
That's a good point. You know what?
Okay,
Hammer,
thank you.
If you look at white nationalist groups, what do they really target the most? It's to wake up our fellow brethren so that they know. So that's a good point. Yeah,
so we can agree that the masses view them as white. So thank you.
Sure, but that doesn't. I still don't understand your logic in that, because let's say, for example, the 2020 situation, right? The news was telling me that people were dropping dead like flies, even in my small town here. But then
don't tell me you're also a COVID-19 conspiracy theorist.
I'm not saying that it doesn't exist or whatever. I didn't get the jab or whatever. But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. So with that situation there, my local news was saying that the hospitals were full and flooded with people dying left and right. I went down there, to have an appointment, and there was like 3 people in there with COVID. So I know for a fact that the mass. I'm not saying there wasn't a virus called COVID-19, but I know for a fact that what the masses thought about that situation was in fact false. It was not true. So just because the masses might believe a bunch of retarded shit. That doesn't mean that I have to join them with
Do you
their
know what
herd
actually happened with COVID?
mentality.
What happened with COVID is that really, in my opinion, it was essentially a bioweapon that was accidentally leaked from a Chinese lab.
Maybe, yeah, maybe
Because the U.S. government knew that, that's why they locked down. But here's the issue: there were more dangerous versions. It just so happened that the one that leaked out was not that bad, so we got lucky. And by the way, just in case, I know you don't care about this, right? Millions of whites died in that situation. In fact, that actually accelerated your decline in America.
Oh, that's not true. You said millions of white people did not die from COVID in the United States. That's false. That's
There
bullshit.
was a I want okay, maybe I got but
That's bullshit,
there was
bro.
a lot
Millions,
of
bro.
whites
Millions,
who passed
bro.
away from COVID-19.
Fuck no.
Okay, that's the reason why after COVID-19 they actually had to move up the date of when you guys become minority, because so many of the older whites died off. So I don't understand why you think
COVID did not. COVID. I only know most people that I meet. They might have like one like super elder person that was on the verge of death that like died or something, but that was like it. It did not like wipe us out. Like fucking,
but on these numerical numbers, there was a massive rise in deaths, and a lot of that was the white population.
I'm assuming you're like on the Northeast somewhere, probably. Maybe I don't know what state you're in, but I could just tell you, bro.
These numbers are for because look.
I don't give a fuck what those numbers are. I live in a town where almost no one died.
You guys, look, often white people are just being hit left and right. You guys are dealing with the opioid crisis that's killing so many guys.
I agree.
You guys are dealing with essentially low birth rates because white men can't afford to essentially have a family anymore. You guys are dealing with
we're chasing materialism. What do you mean? The average beaner can come over here with no money and shit out. I can shit out 5 kids and have them on welfare and just, you know, we could do the same thing that Tyrone and Shanique would do too. We just
now let me ask you a question.
Hey,
how many white women?
I want to say something real quick to this previous point that we're just talking about. That because we do have low birth rates, right? The average white family has like I think like 1.3 or 1.5 kids. So you are accurate about that. But here's the thing: most white people, they do it on purpose. Most of them are kind of chasing materialism instead of having a family. However, because our families are so small, that leaves us with a ton of inheritance, and that inheritance that we get because we're better with money is another thing that you guys point to and call it white privilege.
No, the amount of wealth you guys have was built through years of structural racism. Let's be honest.
No, it's not. That's retarded. Nope. That's retarded. I'm in a state. I live in a state out west where there was literally no blacks, no slaves at all. So who the fuck built my state, you dumbass?
Dude, your entire country was based on you don't think that every single state benefits from that?
I live in a western state that has a history with basically no blacks being here. How did blacks build it, please?
Does that state receive federal money?
Huh?
Does that state receive federal money? Does it receive investments from Wall Street? This is not just
Hammer, the majority of slaves, the largest concentration of slaves were what is known as the Mississippi Delta. They were predominantly in the South, and they were owned privately. So they made their people. Listen, slaves were private property, so they made their private masters money. What are you talking about? The federal government making all this fucking money on slavery? That's why they ended it. The fuck?
Let me ask you a question.
Bro, you're sounding like an FDA. We built everything. Y'all just
that's not what I'm saying. That's not right. What I'm saying here is that the only thing they're right about is the fact that slave labor was used as a labor force to industrialize the country.
No, absolutely not. No. And fuck no with a capital F. Slaves were mainly in the South doing agricultural work. No, they were not.
Now you think that the North was completely independent from that?
Our Industrial Revolution started the late early 1900s, years after slavery was over, bro.
Let me ask you a question. You think the North was not trading with the South?
Dude, our Industrial Revolution was late early 1900s.
You think the North was not trading with the South?
What does that have to do with anything?
More the agrarian out the cotton that was used to make to sell to Western Europe? What are we talking about here?
Sir. Oh man.
Like, it is well documented that That labor not only helped produce that common, but the resources they got from the South essentially helped fuel the U.S. economy.
It was just agriculture. It just made a couple white men rich. No, I need to go pick up my car now.
What do you think they used that cotton for in the North? To create textiles, to create goods, to sell, right?
All I know is black slaves had nothing to do with industrialization of America. They did agricultural work. They had nothing to do when it comes to all the big
wealth
industry
and
shit,
the resources that was generated from that facilitated America's
no, it didn't, bro.
No,
it didn't. That's so retarded. The North is where the Industrial Revolution like really took off.
Like, are you trying to say the North had no ties to slavery? Hold up. Because you do realize that when the slaves came to the colony, they started off in the North. You understand this, right? 13 colonies were in the North. They ended up in the North. This is way before the Louisiana Purchase. This is way before any kind of Western expansion. The slavery began in the North. What are you talking about here? So in fact, in many ways, he's gone. But dude, in many ways, that's also one of the reasons why the founding fathers at one point believed that slavery would end, because before the cotton gin, they expected that, hey, this is not sustainable in the long term. The cotton gin made it profitable. So we gotta be honest here, man. Yeah, but by offense, yeah. See you later, man. Look, by the end of the day, look, I'm sorry, I have to pick up my car. Yeah, well, yeah. But, you're all welcome back. But, guys, I always love going head-to-head with white supremacists. It's fun. But if you guys watched my exchange with him, right, you notice how he will say something. I will have to correct him, and I have to admit that I'm correct. This is what that stuff I gotta deal with 24/7 white folks. They don't just say anything. Right? Don't just say it like right now. I do agree with him that the FBA ADOS thing is a bunch of rhetoric, but outside of that, a lot of people are wrong. But anyway, at the end of the day, that was a cool, great live stream, way longer than I thought. But yeah, so guys, I've already broke it down in regards to the end of the West. West when this came up, we had a conversation about it. We went into other things, and that should be it. So before I go, let me go ahead and say here: is there anybody else that would like to hop on the panel before I go? Now, you guys already know I don't do that many live streams like that, especially during the day. So I'm giving y'all a chance here. Hold on again, I'm gonna wait a couple more minutes. Y'all let me know. If you guys want to hop on with more and we can continue the conversation. If not, I'll go ahead and close it. But yeah, that was so funny. That was just it's funny how he'll just. But look, when I make videos about white folks, about white folks' mentality, I'm like off air, like that's what I'm talking about. That's what I mean, like in real time, like they'll contradict themselves in real time, right? But with that being said, but look, I guess nobody's coming up, so that's fine. But before I let you guys go, let you know, look, the premise is very clear here, okay? Because of capitalism, as Asia went through its demographic boom, and as the West kind of plugged in China, it was inevitable at the center of the global economy, the center of power moved towards the East, moved towards Asia. And of course, this century is the Asian century in which the center of power and the center of global economy will be in Asia. And the next century is going to be the African century, in which, the center of global power and the center of global economy will be in Africa. Largely due to the fact when you zoom out, you see that it's the only continent that's growing demographically, specifically sub-Saharan Africa, and it is also slowly industrialized. So, yes, we are seeing the end of the West. And this Ukraine conflict, in my opinion, was just the last nail in the coffin. With that being said, I'll leave it there. I thought it was a pretty long live stream. What you guys think? And I'm out.